But this time, the blood is shooting out of his side into his mother's raised chalice, which she apparently had in her purse for just such an occasion.
Then there's a weird deacon guy that looks like he just came right off the registered sex offender list.
I saw one fish who had obviously given up, just dousing himself in tartar sauce. I'm going to go out pasty. All of you losers are making $12 an hour, so quit your bitching. Unless you want to go unclog the toilets again.
Frankincense and myrrh? How about a freaking Airbnb?
This is the Snaggletooth Extreme Metal Podcast.
We survived the family Easter party.
Barely.
Barely. What was your favorite part?
I really liked the way, at the family Easter party, good family fun. The documentary of choice for Easter brunch.
The giant screen TV.
For everyone to see was the uber bloody reenactment of the crucifixion.
Yeah.
It was like, hey kids, after you get done hunting eggs, come watch this new autopsy video.
Exactly.
It was about the same level of violence. Make sure you get a close-up of the nails going in, and then let's see what it's like putting the 3-year-old down for a nap.
Yeah,
how that goes.
At one point I actually had to say, look, I was trying to tell somebody a story. I was like, look, I'm going to turn the crucifixion down a little bit if you don't mind, weird,
And we wonder why kids fundamentally don't like church.
Or adults.
You come into a church and the first thing you see is the bleeding, tortured man nailed to a cross above the altar that has a spooky old dude in this ghostly robe saying things like, "This is the cup of my blood, the blood of a new and everlasting covenant. It will be shed for you so that sins be forgiven. Please get an orderly line to drink it." Stained glass windows of people sticking their fingers into Christ's wounds after, he came back. It's a wonder kids don't run away screaming. It's worse than a haunted house. And the weird blessing of the throats, they hold 2 candles like this, crisscross, so they're about to behead you. It's super weird.
Then the church organ erupts and you jump out of your skin. The priest opens up a homily with some vague joke about angels curing old women, and one of them objects because it could jeopardize her disability benefits. All the old skeletons chuckle at this, and the kids got to be sitting there thinking, what's disability? This is the worst stand-up I've ever seen, And you got some scary old woman. Shh. When you ask your father how long it's going to be. And she obviously feels bad at the end of the mass, so she fishes into her purse and gives you a peace offering of a hard candy from the Clinton era. Then there's a weird deacon guy that looks like he just came right off the registered sex offender list. He's reading a Bible story about King Solomon's advice to cut the baby in half. Just violence everywhere you look. Church organ again. All right, here's a quick one. So Jesus and the disciples are on a fishing boat, right? And the disciples start having this little argument about that he could walk on water. Finally, they talk Jesus into giving them a little demonstration to settle the argument. So Jesus climbs over the side, steps onto the water, boom, sinks right in. Weird. They fish him out, tries it again, boom, sinks like a stone. Gets out, and as he's toweling off, he just says, I can't do it as well now that I got these holes in my feet. Now we're all going to hell.
Why are you in a handbasket? And then you have the lovely painting that depicts that same gory man on the cross. But this time, the blood is shooting out of his side into his mother's raised chalice, which she apparently had in her purse for just such an occasion. All mothers.
All Catholic mothers have a blood-catching chalice on their person. Yeah.
Then it's time for more music. We will all join in the uplifting top 10 gem, Alas, and Did My Savior Bleed, with lines like, Thy bloody slain, sweet Jesus thine, and bathed in its own blood, While all the glorious exposed to wrath divine, the glorious sufferer stood. Sounds like death metal, if you ask me. Now it's a party.
Hell yeah.
I remember honestly thinking there is a song, there is a balm in Gilead. But
Like
mistakenly,
a balm, like where you rub like
like
lotion.
it's
Yeah.
supposed to be like a cure
Right.
for, I don't know, leprosy. I don't know what the hell it's supposed to cure.
Right.
But I thought they were singing there is a bomb in Gilead, which given the area is probably more accurate.
Yeah.
Then there's all the constant candle lighting, creating flickering, eerie shadows on the walls. Incense shook at you aggressively in lanterns on chains. All of a sudden, it's like I'm coughing. It's hard to breathe. I hope I have my inhaler with me.
Confession.
Mm.
When you're old enough, you can kneel in the dark, scary confessional room and tell the shadowy figure how many times you jerked off to the magazines you found under your dad's workbench. I've also always questioned the three wise men thing. If they were so wise and they had traveled so far, couldn't they see that these people were dirt poor? They had a newborn sleeping in a barn filled with sheep shit. Frankincense and myrrh? How about a freaking Airbnb? Maybe some Pampers.
Maybe they could hawk the frankincense for some Pampers. I don't
No one questioned these things apparently. So, well, we also were thinking about the process of job interviewing.
know. No
Recently.
job interview graphic?
I had trouble putting that together. So, um, interviews are like the worst blind dates in the world. Both you and the employer refuse to acknowledge that you're considering 13 other people besides them. Both sides represent their most spiffed up fake selves in this encounter based on your entire education and work experience, which is on one single piece of paper about the size of a Hallmark card. There's very little chance you'll get a call back, and the odds of having sex are really low.
I actually felt that after being on Match.com for years, it made me more relaxed about job interviewing because it's the same thing. You have to be this watered down version of yourself, polite, asking questions about the other while giving the vaguest, generic answers back to test the waters and try not to somehow offend the other person while seeming appealing to someone you are not even sure if you want. It also helps to feign interest at things you have no interest in. Like he's talking about his hobby, country line dancing and scuba gear, and you have to be like, oh. It's an exercise in fakery, just the same. After all, when you're job interviewing, they don't want you to know about the break room toilet that backs up twice a week, and you don't want them to know that you secretly lost your last job because you called your boss a witless turd.
Speaking of which, this week's sponsor is Despised Relative Soda. You might as well refresh your palate because Uncle Don's always going to be an asshole. Anyway, basically the interview process boils down to this. They want to know that you'll show up every day, do your work, and not bitch. And you want them to pay you what they promised and maybe let you take a nap at your desk once in a while. But we don't ask these direct questions. We come up with questions like, what's your biggest fault? To which my answer would always be, well, I consider myself a decent person, but overall, I am down for the occasional cockfight. I mean, I got rid of the pit bulls.
Another good one is when they ask you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? This is a question I always respond to in a place where I can live on my music. Oh,
What do you play?
What do you play? They're on the hook here. Oh, my armpits. I'm in the music from the Body Orchestra, and I think it's going to take off in the coming months.
Seems fair. Back when I was doing logistics for this big retail company, I had a boss that liked to play hooky a lot. She just not show up on Fridays. So one in particular, the girls had been giving me a hard time to wear my goofy tuxedo T-shirt to work. So I waited for Friday. I said, "What the heck?" So I'm wearing this goofy shirt, right? So around 10 o'clock, I get a call from my boss, and she says, "Mark, we got a guy coming in for an interview for customer service at 2. I totally forgot about it. Can you handle the interview?" And this was common practice because I was sort of like the second in command there, so I did a lot of the interviews for employees there. But considering my attire, I kind of balked at the idea. But I wasn't able to get out of it. So, of course, this guy shows up dressed to the nines, full suit, vest, GQ hairdo. I came in like the game show host from Captain Goofy's Comedy Hour or whatever, and my tuxedo T-shirt. And all I could think to say was, as you can see, John, we like to have fun around here.
Our feature interview this week is with Jim Fergades of the legendary thrash metal band Morbid Saint. We have a great chat that takes us all the way back to the band's earliest days, as well as the making of their exciting new record, Swallowed by Hell. What was the extreme metal scene like in Wisconsin in 1988? You'll want to tune in to see.
Okay, let's play a song. This is from Morbid Saint's legendary debut, Spectrum of Death, and the song is called Lock Up Your Children. Okay, let's talk about Patreon. The site is patreon.com/Snaggletooth podcast. And for $6.66 a month, you get more market safe than any human being should have to encounter.
Yeah, it takes a lot to keep the show running. And we also like to get things from the artists that we represent on the show. We get vinyl, we get pictures, we get swag. So in helping us keep the show going, you are also helping the underground music scene. So
Absolutely.
for less than you spend at Starbucks, plus you get bonus content. What more could you want?
Yep, I just put up some reviews of the Live Zon album and Yoko Ono's Fly. So get over there. You got all kinds of reviews that you can't see anywhere else. You've got recipes. You've got basically me and Stace being us. So, people are really secretive about what they get paid in America.
It's a thing. Like even at my job, she does this thing where she prints out our hours from the time clock, and they all have to be face down. And that's not even the pay amount is known there. We're not even allowed to see how many hours the other people worked. So it's a thing. I wonder if other cultures are as secretive about paychecks as we are in America. Is it that the managers don't want to awkwardly explain why dumbass Billy in IT is making $3 more an hour than you, despite the fact that he just sits back there playing Call of Duty all
I
day?
think that's probably got something to do with it. Maybe vanity levels are just higher in America. It seems to me that in places like Vietnam, where the woman doesn't get paid unless she extracts a minimum of 45 pounds of crab meat each day, I doubt she's comparing W-2s with anyone else looking for opportunities. I visited this big Korean food company in Southern Maryland one time for work, and they were all in this huge room. It looked like bring your own desk to work day. Nothing matched. Everything was all crammed in one room, no partitions. The only thing missing was Arbeit macht frei printed on the wall, which there was some lettering there in Korean. Maybe it did say that. I don't know. But it was basically your garden variety sweatshop. I felt bad for the 20-something girl that spoke English there. She had to literally run from department to department, translating and communicating with everyone from me to the gardener to the paper shredder. I wonder what her paycheck looked like compared to the others.
It's much more scandalous here. You're telling me that she makes $17 an hour when my commute is 3 buses, a subway, and a 9-block walk. She doesn't even know how to work the machine. I'm further away from the printer, and she steals postage stamps for her personal mail. Plus, she started her 3 months after me. Christ, I think she only has an AA. This is BS. Fisticuffs soon to follow. I guess the opposite isn't much better. Signs posted. All of you losers are making $12 an hour, so quit your bitching unless you want to go unclog the toilets again. Any lateness docks you 50 cents an hour for every 15 minutes late. So suck it up, buttercup.
I worked for this grocery logistics company for a while, and I remember the women in customer service downstairs, they tried to stage a coup because they all started to find out what each other was being paid. I came down one day to their part of the building, and the desks were all empty. Apparently, ownership would not put up with squawking hen house, and they fired everybody. Of course, the cleaning staff weren't exactly thrilled about answering phones. Sorry, sir, I hung up on Piggly Wiggly again. I was trying to vacuum. Nepotism often has something to do with it too. I mean, I worked for this family business for a while. They never fired anybody, right? So the average age of a customer service person was like 72, right? So I remember one time I'm sitting in the break room and I look over and one of the old auditors is napping on the sofa. The other one brought his own little portable TV to work and he's watching that. And I started thinking, Christ, am I working in a retirement village or something? I guess I could have started up a competitive bingo and shuffleboard tournament if I was enterprising, but my thoughts were interrupted when Dennis, who was the head custodian, he had been trying to pick up a bag of chips he dropped that he had gotten out of the vending machine, and his arthritis was so bad he physically could not bend over. It was tough to watch. I questioned my career point. Um, this is interesting. I set up some trucking for the National Aquarium in Baltimore years ago, and it was some of the weirdest logistics I ever dealt with. Turns out certain species at the aquarium get stage fright after a few weeks. And they had like a warehouse over in Fells Point outside town. And some of the animals needed to be shuttled back and forth to get a break from being on display. So apparently being constantly in the public eye makes some of them nervous and they can have health problems from it. It's for like performance anxiety. Yeah.
You know, plus the sea turtles are always complaining that their dressing rooms are too small, and the groupers have to do their own makeup due to allergy concerns.
Not many people know this. Yeah.
Yeah, octopuses need to recharge those ink stores, and the eels need time when no one was tapping at them through the glass. It's an actual decompression therapy group they have to go through.
Yeah.
You know, and ever see, the fish in those big tanks surrounded by tiger sharks and wonder, did they lose a bet or something to get them in there?
Why not the angelfish? Yeah.
The look of sheer terror as they swim through the tank roulette wheel of death. Basically, you're a bacon cheeseburger with gills to the rest of your roommates whose Uber Eats never showed up.
True story. Yeah.
I saw one fish who had obviously given up, just dousing himself in tartar sauce. I'm going to go out pasty. I mean, I don't know what those fish did. Maybe they lost a bet with King Triton or something, or pissed off a sea witch.
All right, I can't take it anymore. This song is called Rise from the Ashes. Okay, let's talk about imperfect foods.
Our sponsor this week is Imperfect Foods.
And Stace has been digging through the trash off what we ate 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, our order's actually coming this week. But yeah, so it's a great company. You don't have to worry about remembering your self bags at checkout. You don't have to deal with standing in line or counting coupons. And this company does a better thing. They actually get foods out there that may have been a little imperfect, broken almonds, slightly blemished pears. They have a whole line of things that would have never seen the shelf. They do have incredible meats at this company, we found. In fact, I would show it to you, but we already ate it. The salmon was delightful. They have chicken that already has a sauce on it. So for these moms that are busy during the week, all you basically have to do is throw it in the oven, air fry up some veg, boom, healthy dinner.
For people who like live alone, or it's just like Stace and I, where it's just a couple and you don't eat that much. One thing that's great about Imperfect is you can actually get a reasonably small size chicken wings. You don't have to buy 72 chicken wings like you do at the grocery store.
Right.
Just there's certain meats that we'd like a petite. We don't need the 50-pound thing of beef. You know what I mean? So that's one thing that I really like about. See, that's our size.
This is the size of chicken.
Now, this is not going to feed a family of 12, but I said, if you're a couple,
it's perfect for us.
Yeah.
We don't have to buy the pack and put it in bags and hope it doesn't get freezer burn. And this is really reasonable. They sell this for about $4.50. And all their meats are extremely tasty. I've never had anything from there that I did not like.
Yep.
Another example, this is seasoned beef for fajitas. This is an example. It's pre-seasoned for you. So
Yeah,
all
that
you
would last.
basically have to
That
do,
would last us for like probably 4 meals. Yeah.
you know, all you have to do is cook it up. It's already seasoned. Throw it in your tacos. You're good to go. Easy peasy.
Mhm.
They also have stuff like smoked chicken sausage. This is chicken with
I can't believe that's
spinach
still
and
here.
feta. Yep.
Wow. We
It's
usually
still
tear
here.
them up right away.
So they have all this and more produce, fruit, dairy. You can get eggs, and everything is delivered, packed in ice, shipped directly to your door. So all you got to do is go out there and get the box.
Okay.
So hit the link. It will save you off your first order. This week they're actually running a special. So you could save $15 off your first order from Imperfect Foods.
Very good. Ah, it is time for Wax of Contrition. But before we do that, we were boogieing it up to this one last night. Fred Schneider. There's a monster in my pants and it does a modern dance. When it comes into a room, people hit it with a broom. And what I like most about this album is that Fred, he had to do a solo album and he was like, let's make it sound nothing like the B-52s. I mean, it's totally the B-52s. I mean, the girls are in it, you know. I thought dinosaurs were extinct. I like the line when he says, they don't wear pants on the other side of France, but they do wear fleece to protect them from the beasts. I mean, lyrical genius, this man, you know.
That's some poetic
And
stuff there.
And a snappy dresser at that. So let's play There's a Monster in My Pants.
There's a monster in my pants, and it does a modern dance. When it comes into a room, people hit it with a broom.
Okay, sadly, this is not the Fred Schneider show. Let's talk about a black metal crusher, if there ever was one. Inquisition's ominous doctrines of the perpetual mystical macrocosm from 2010.
Our review of the latest album from Dagon and Incubus several weeks back sent me once again scurrying to this, my favorite of all of Inquisition's blasphemous sheets of wax. I found it interesting how this duo stayed true to the orthodox ideals of traditional black metal, but like contemporaries Deathspell Omega, pushed the genre into new territory sonically speaking. The band had made a big splash previously as a trio with 2002's Invoking the Majestic Throne of Satan, establishing Dagon's trademark chiming, wall of sound guitar, and processed robot vocals. But the sound the duo dial up with the Colombian producer Alejandro Corredor on this record was another huge leap forward. The drums are beefed up in cannonball bursts, and the riffing is a bruised symphonic swell with a distinct sort of computerized glitch on top of it. It became obvious at this point that the band would not sit back on their laurels and rehash past glories, but would in fact continue to push the envelope on each future release from a production and performance standpoint.
Yeah, the air of the album is unbelievably bleak and full of gloom, and similar in a lot of ways to the hypnotic tracks of Burzum's Philosophem record. But the sonic punishment that bounds from the speakers in these tracks has got to be heard to be believed. Let's start off with one of a must-hear pounder from this record that kicks off with a sample from the belovedly campy 1973 horror movie Inquisition. Lucifer, punish your enemies, O Lord of the Night, destroy them all!
Lucifer, punish your enemies, O Lord of the Night, destroy them all.
Okay, continuing on with Inquisition. As you can hear, for all its Lovecraftian darkness and evil, this music is miles beyond ratty guitar tones and typewriter thumping drums. Just take a listen to the vast, almost symphonic sounding layers of stacked guitar in the mid-tempo title track. Double bass pumps full of power and snare cymbal tones crisp and strong. Dagon's froggy vocals truly come off sounding like some evil entity from another dimension. And the way the riffs sort of pulsate when he goes for his signature bends, There's just nobody else in the genre that sounds like this. The one we're going to play for you in a minute is every bit as spellbinding as the early Burzum stuff, albeit with a swooning riff that practically grabs the listener by the throat before disintegrating into what sounds like 50 guitars oscillating through space as Dagan chants his eeriest vocals to date. It's over 7 minutes long, and I'm always disappointed when it's over. Seeing that one performed live should be on every fan of the genre's bucket list. This would be yet another of several sonic milestones the duo would offer to the world, and they're still producing incredible records to this day. This is Desolate Funeral Chant. Okay, should we introduce the interview?
This is our interview with Jim from Morbid Saint. We are so glad that this group is back and better than ever. And I don't care what anyone says. I love that artwork.
Yeah, artwork's good, bitches. Quit your bitching. It's
Like
good
a
artwork.
hero, I want it on a bikini.
Exactly. So here it is.
Oh my God, I was so excited. I was like, they're back. They're back. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So what part of Wisconsin are you currently in?
We are in Sheboygan, so we are right in the middle of between Green Bay and Milwaukee.
Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah.
Each. Right
We've been
there.
doing a lot of Wisconsin bands lately. We interviewed Lords of the Trident. We interviewed Last Crack. we
Vanishing
interviewed
Kids.
Vanishing Kids. Yeah. So
Something about Madison.
there's something about
The water.
Wisconsin is very attractive to us in terms of music.
Have you ever been here?
No.
Oh, I've been there a million
I haven't.
times. Yeah, I used to have to fly in there because I used to have to go visit a manufacturing plant in Illinois, like Northern Illinois, and Milwaukee was so much better than ORD, airport. So
Yes, yeah, it is definitely.
yeah, and back then, this is like 10 years ago, they had a guy playing piano in the airport, and they had a used bookstore in the airport, and I just remember thinking, how can you afford to have a used bookstore in an airport? I mean, isn't the rent extortive?
Yeah.
Weird. Anyway.
Maybe he got grandfather claused in, like the store was there and they built the airport around it. And they're like, you can stay.
Because an airport's like the most expensive mall you can be in, basically, So
Yep.
it's weird.
Outside of a cruise ship, that's number 2
I would say so.
for things. So do you remember all the way at the beginning who came up with that great name, Morbid Saint? It's kind of like an oxymoron, although I will say I think most saints are kind of morbid.
Actually, Jay, the other guitar player, came up with that,
Okay.
and we've kind of went back and forth because I always get asked it in interviews, and I don't really remember. It had something to do with a Celtic Frost song, I think. Maybe
Ah,
Morbid Tales or something. It was a combination of a couple things he had heard.
Right.
Yeah, it's just kind of, we were looking for a name and he came up with that.
it's very good because if you Google it, you're all that comes up. It's not like 9 other references. So
Yeah. If you.
Well, once you get Morbid in, typically Morbid Angel comes up.
Yeah.
That one they come first, but once you put the S in, then it usually hits us. So.
Yeah.
I love it.
Did you have any formal music training, or were you like self-taught on everything?
Basically I say self-taught. I don't think, that's kind of I don't think anybody's really self-taught because you're always going to learn things from people as you go. But in the sense, yes, I never took any kind of classes or
Yeah.
anything like that. So yeah,
No
self-taught.
high school band.
Yeah.
No, they didn't have a thrash band in our high school, so.
Maybe they should have.
Yeah, we were at a friend's house the other day. He had one of those old guitar books, like it was like I think it was Steely Dan or something, how to play. And I remember like I would figure out songs by ear, and I would write them in my little guitar book, and I still have it, and they're all wrong.
They're all wrong.
They're all wrong. I'm like, what was I doing? Trying to do everything by ear back then. So
So do you remember when you were younger, kind of the first heavy music that kind of made you go, what is this? I like this.
I eh, most of my early influences, I guess, are Judas Priest and Maiden and things like that. I'm from a really young age. I got into Kiss right away. When other kids were listening to whatever at that time, the Carpenters and
right, yeah.
whatever. Kiss really, I was really attracted to that. That just, and in that, obviously, once you're into anything heavy or hard rock like that, for us, it just progressed to just kept getting heavier and faster. And, when things like Slayer and stuff like that came out, then that was just, for us, that was a natural progression to go that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I got the Enigma mail order catalog in the mail, and I remember going through and seeing like the pictures of like Tom Warrior and Slayer over that. It was over Jeff Hanneman's wife with the blood.
Yep.
And it was just like, what does this sound like? This has got to be incredible,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have you heard the new Judas Priest album?
Little bits of it, little snippets. I'm not much up on Priest much anymore since, I think when they kind of wouldn't let KK Downing come back for some things and stuff. I kind of like, I don't think that's right. So haven't really paid much attention to him. I mean, I think, Halford's still able to do pretty good for how old he is. He's doing great.
Yeah.
But even KK's new stuff, I think is all right. It's different, but
Yeah.
I think that these guys. I think I'm old. These guys are really old.
Yeah, for 70 some years old, I can't believe what he can pull off. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't do that if somebody goosed me.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy that they're still able to do that, but they're doing it.
So for you guys, going back to like when you recorded your first demo, it reads like you only had 5 8-hour sessions to get it done. Was for Lock Up Your Daughters, was it like a lot of pressure or did it just come easily?
For the recording or writing, the recording is very, very easy. Because we recorded it live. So
Wow.
I always think there's 8 songs on there. There's not. There's 7. But I think we did 5 of the songs we did in just one take. We played them through. They were good. And in the other 2 we had to play again. So realistically, the main recording was done in, a couple hours. But we back then, that's all we did. So we practiced 7 days a week, probably for about 4 years straight, maybe a day off here or there, holidays and things like that. But we basically played 3-4 hours every day, the band, not just individually.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. No wonder you sound so tight. Yeah.
Yeah. So to go in the studio, it was nothing. It's just like practice, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and we played back then. We had a very weird philosophy. We kind of like drank a lot. So we figured if we practiced kind of drunk, we'd be able to play live drunk. I don't know. So it got really easy to play the stuff when you were completely straight. It was
Yeah.
like easy, it was kind of a struggle or drinks you had in you, but
That's funny.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, like I said, just a weird thing we had because we partied.
It was like, yeah, nice solo. How about you chug 3 of those beers and then try it again?
And it probably get right.
He's sober. It doesn't count. Yeah, that's funny.
You could have made it into a drinking game. All right, shot every time you get it wrong.
Yeah,
Do it again.
exactly right.
Right.
Yeah,
And
it had the possibility.
It would eventually get better, right? Yeah. No, it was that's all we did back then was we worked the least amount we had to and practiced and partied. It's pretty much what we really did. We never thought, and I don't want to get ahead of you because I'm sure you might ask some questions that I don't want to answer before you ask them. But we never, we weren't trying to be a big band or anything. This is just what we were doing.
Yeah. Well, it seemed like all the thrash bands that you hear about from that era were on the coast. So, like Anthrax and Nuclear Assault on the East Coast, and then you had, of course, Slayer, Metallica on the West Coast. What was it like in Wisconsin in terms of like heavy music at that point? I mean, who else was there besides you guys?
Pretty much it. That just, there's other bands, but not, there was other bands playing like Pat, our singer. When we got him, he was in a band. He was a drummer actually, but he sang for them. And they were doing like metal church, there was other bands around doing heavy music. I say heavy, nobody was doing really what we were doing.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to make money, I think.
Yeah.
You don't, this is not the kind of music to be in if you want to make money.
Right. No, I know. What were the reactions like? I'm sure people were like, "Are you guys crazy, or what are you doing?" I mean, you're practicing every day, this crazy music, and you're the only heavy band in the scene.
We went over good at shows that we had. Most of the shows we didn't. It's not. The majority of shows we played back then we set up ourselves.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it wasn't like now kind of things are a little bit different for us, but we would get down to like Milwaukee and play down there. We did Metal Fest 3 and with Death, and we played with Death and Dark Angel on the Ultimate Revenge 2 tour.
Great.
So there we're playing with bands that are in the similar to what we were doing. But we were really close with a band from Milwaukee called Realm.
Oh, I know them. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Played with them quite a few times. Really cool guys. And they were I thought they were gonna go really far with their music. They had a really good singer. They were all great musicians. But things happened the way they did. But their Endless War album to me is a great album.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was because we set the shows up. It was a lot of people we knew every time we played, so it was always a decent, no big huge crowds, but we just had fun.
Endless War, isn't that the one that had the Eleanor Rigby cover on it? Yeah. Okay. That's the band I was thinking of. Yeah, we used to listen to that album when I was in college. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Were your parents like supportive, like getting into a band? Did they come out to shows, or were they just like, all right, do your thing?
Not really. Just in the sense that I technically moved out when I was about 17. So, and even though I have my parents were divorced, but I always had a great relationship with my parents. But I needed to do my own thing. So I was like I look at young kids today, the young kids think they're smarter than you are. They know everything. And that's how I was too. I thought I knew everything. So no, they never came to see me play or anything like that.
Yeah, I moved out at 18, and I remember a big part of it was because my evening was starting when theirs was ending. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, at 10 o'clock, let's get some people over here. And they were like, son, we're going to bed.
Yeah, right.
That doesn't work out very well,
Yeah, I agree with you. It gets to that point where it's like you're another adult. And it wasn't for me till I moved home from college. And, I was used to staying out,
Right.
and then we would, go to a diner or whatever. I remember coming home at like 7:30 in the morning after being out all night. My father going, "Oh, you got up and went to church." And I'm like, "Uh-huh."
Not hardly.
Bye.
That sounds good, old man. Yeah.
Yeah, when he finally caught on, it didn't go so well. I think I got my apartment shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
You know how that goes.
Yeah. So I always wanted to ask you, this small Mexican label that Spectrum of Death came out on. How did that come around? It sounds like you guys were really dedicated, but I mean, like, what the label? Admittedly, I never saw your album on the racks back in the day when I was buying Slayer and Pestilence and Death and all that stuff. So
yeah, no, we when we got hooked up with Eric Greif, who was the manager of Death, he through Edge Entertainment, he hooked us up with that Avanzada Metallica label,
Right.
and we were, it wasn't like we had a list of labels we could choose from. We
Yeah.
had one. So we went with it, and we're glad we did, because if we wouldn't have, we probably wouldn't even be talking right now. They did get it out there. They, obviously not as much as it could have been, but they did
Yeah.
what they did, and we were happy with it. We were all for just having an actual physical album that we could hold on to, and um, we got a bunch of free copies of CDs and stuff. And I always tell people now, people always ask, about, because Spectrum of Death has such a like a cult following type thing. A lot of people think it's a really good album, and they think it was always like that, but it wasn't back then. When we recorded that album, I tell this to everybody, we couldn't even sell CDs at shows. We had to give them away. It
Yeah.
it was not received. It took 20 some years of the internet for that album to be what it is now. So
No, I know what you mean. I remember that. I remember going to shows back in the 80s, and Caton from Hyrax was handing out free copies of his Hyrax albums, because he couldn't charge for them, but nobody would have bought them. Yeah.
right, and it was more important for us to just get them in people's hands,
Yeah.
much as we could. So,
Yeah.
it all worked out fine, for us. We're happy with, like I said, I think, it's a small little Mexican label. It's very weird. But it helped, it obviously helped us get to where we are now, which is not really anywhere except for the fact that we're, still in Sheboygan with a new album.
Well, it was hard to kind of figure out what happened because you were, there in 89, and then 10 years later, it was kind of you weren't. And there wasn't like a page you could go to find out what was going on, or the internet. So what kind of happened in that time period that kind of caused things to, was it life or?
Well, the original, after we recorded Destruction System, right around 96, I believe, the band just split, based on, people had, some people had families, things, your life changes, and you got, whether it's a job or whatever. It just, the band doesn't pay bills.
Yeah.
So you got to do what's gonna, and look forward to, look at your future and stuff. And everybody just kind of, we just, it was nothing bad. We all, we've, for the entire time I haven't been in a band, I live literally, half a mile from Jay. I have my whole life. He's, we've talked all the time. So, it was never nothing bad in the band. It just like you said, life changed for everybody.
Yeah.
And the band, like you said, you can't continue to do that. And when you have a family that you need to take care of. So, it just was kind of mutual that way for everybody. So from 96 till like 2010, the band did nothing really. And then Jay got the band back together in 2010, and he had Pat with him for a little while. I'm not sure. I wasn't around then, so I'm a little vague on some of the stuff. But so he had Pat for a little while, and then Pat ended up moving out of state. So then, Jay lost Pat, and then he just, members kind of came and went, different singers and different things. But he kept it going till around a little after 2019, 2020. They kept going, and things happened in that time. And like, I think 15 or 16, Destruction System got another release. But that entire time, Jay he always asked me to come back and play, because I've always been in contact with him. I was never able to do it. I own my own business. So I ended up selling my business in 2019, and Jay seen an opportunity. The band had, was his band that he had, that version of the band had kind of split. So they were just kind of hanging there, and he contacted me, and Pat actually had moved back to the state. He was real close to us now. He's not in Sheboygan, but he's outside of it. Pat had moved back, and he was up for it. I was game, to go again, and we were able to keep Bob who had played with Jay since like 2010. His last name is Zabel, in case you're wondering, because I did see your other interview, but everybody gets his last name wrong. Same with DJ. DJ, nobody gets his last name. His last name is Bagamel.
Okay. Yeah, we probably butchered it. Yeah.
Everybody does. They all do. So they were with Jay. DJ was with him for about 5 or 6 years, I think. So they were the last, bass and drummer in the band, and we were able to get them guys back in it. And I said right from the start, it's like I'll come back and do this, but we're writing an album. That's the only, I mean, I there's no other point of just coming back and keep playing Spectrum of Death and Destruction System. So that was right from the start. That was the goal, was to get back into it. And it took us about 6, 7 or so months just to get into a groove, where, I've never played with them guys. I hadn't actually played guitar till this album. I hadn't played guitar for almost 20 years.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it took a little bit to get back into it. So for the first about 6, 7 months, like I said, we're just relearning the old songs, Pat relearning some stuff, and everybody just kind of, we've always had a thing where you want to play off of everybody, and you want to know, you almost know what their next move's going to be, and everybody's got little different timing things and just all that stuff. So it took a little bit for us to all get used to each other and stuff, and then we started writing.
Did you guys kind of work together, or was there one person who kind of took the lead, or did you kind of just alternate?
For writing?
Yeah, for writing.
Writing, everybody kind of comes up with stuff. And we used right away when we got the band together, I'm like, we got to start a WhatsApp group for the band so we can communicate back and forth and send stuff over. So we were sending little video clips. Everybody would, send little video clips of them playing parts and different things. And I pretty much took everything, and I'll say I kind of built the songs in my computer, just with ideas for drums and stuff that came with them. And I would just throw something together so we had a rough idea of what a song was, how it would kind of sound. Pat would come over and throw some vocals on it, and then we would just make changes and just tweak it until we were happy with what it was. So it was definitely a full band, contribution. But I kind of was the one who took the job of putting the stuff together. But then it, like I said, we'd bring it down and we'd listen to it a few times, and this, and even then it's not perfect because DJ's got ideas for drums, but then he needs to, add his stuff in, and same with Bob. Bob took the, I would lay down, very basic parts, and then Bob would be like, yeah, that's fine, but I'm gonna do a lot more with it. So, and he did. So it worked out well. It took us probably a little longer than we had anticipated. It was about a year and a half to write the album.
Did you have like shells of old songs that you built from, or is everything completely new?
Everything's new.
Okay.
Yeah. All the songs all our songs are completely fresh. There might have been, a couple parts that were there from maybe like a year or two earlier or something like that. But otherwise, yeah, it was all the words were written fresh. Everything is made now, because a lot of people ask us about that they say we still kind of have an old school kind of sound to us. But that's just because we're old, and and this is who we are. This is how we play. I mean, time, I don't changes that. This is, we play the way we play, and we write the way we write. We don't try to write a certain way. We didn't go into this going, we got to write the most brutal shit we can write. Because if we did, it would have probably been a lot different than it is. We just kind of go in, this is what comes out of us,
It's really, really good. And I've read so much feedback online where everybody's just going nuts. So definitely whatever formula it was, keep it going.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And we've been watching that. We keep an eye on the reviews and stuff. And it's, I try to take the good with the bad, and it is what it is. Some people are gonna like it. It was the one thing we were all, not that it changed anything, but we were very conscious of the fact that people are gonna compare this album to Spectrum of Death. I mean, it just, they're gonna, and we knew that, but we didn't try to do anything different with what we were doing. This is who we are now, and we hoped it would be relatable. We did a couple things intentionally. There are some riffs that are directly related to some riffs on Spectrum. And I know they're there. I don't know if anybody else does, but so otherwise it's yeah, all new stuff.
No, you're right. It's the first thing that people do. I mean,
Yeah.
I was right there when I was a teenager. The first Death Angel album came out, and then that second one with the Kiss cover and all. I was like, okay, the first album was a fucking fluke. Obviously, these guys suck. They're a bunch of boneheads, And of course, Death Angel righted the ship, and they've been great ever since. But
Right.
that's exactly what we do. We say, all right, we made a mistake with the first one.
You gotta line them up.
Yeah. Mhm.
Right.
So I tell you, I got Metal Mistress kind of makes metal clothes for women. I had to get, Nunslaughter's Red as the Color of Ripping Death. They have it like in a crop top.
Yeah.
I would get that on a crop top. I'm just telling you, in case you ever think
No.
about partnering with her.
Oh, the decapitations. Yeah. Yeah.
Who came up with that great apocalyptic art?
Oh, I forgot that's behind me. I mean, obviously, I'm sitting in front of a green screen, so I forgot. We really wanted to go with the new album for the artwork, because the first album, I'm sure you've heard the stories about Spectrum. That was not our idea. When we first seen it, we thought the same thing everybody else did. It looks like Eddie from Iron Man, and but we didn't really have a choice. We had like 4 pictures that the guy, did, and that was the best one. So
Yeah.
we were never happy with it, but it again, it's part of that whole weird thing with that album. It's like we accept it now. It is what it is. And some people like it now. But with this album, we wanted to stay old school, and Ed Repka has always been, half the bands we listened to growing up, he did the artwork for.
Right.
So we thought about it, and I'm like, well, I'll contact them and see if we can, pull something off, and it worked. And we gave him some ideas, and that's what he came up with.
I love it.
And there's a lot of people that hate it.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, there's been a lot of people bashing it. They're like, man, the music's great, but that album cover is horrible. I don't know. I like it. I'm happy. I'm proud of it. I
like that he's very muscly. That was a very 80s. You know what I mean? Like the era of Arnold Schwarzenegger and remember the Jump in the Fire Metallica, where the guy looked like he'd been working out in hell, and Man of War and all. Like I miss the muscly era of metal. Everything had to be muscly back in the day.
Did you give him a name, the muscly assassin
muscly,
guy?
yeah.
No, we don't know. Some other people did, but I don't remember. They had somebody online. I was reading a review, and they gave him a whole backstory and shit.
Oh wow, there you go.
Stuff.
Okay.
It was funny, but no, we didn't. We're honored to have just the artwork by Ed on there, and that's I
think it's great.
he did a great job myself. But we might get some. We don't have like women's clothing yet with the new stuff on it, but we will.
That's
Yeah,
great.
she does great. I mean, she must only, because when I ordered it, I wanted it because we were going to go see Nunslaughter, and it took forever. So she must not actually produce them till you order them, and so
Right.
I mean, you can get a Hell Ripper dress if you want.
Yeah.
And bikinis. So just in case you ever want to partner with her, I'd love that on a bikini. That would be great.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to ask you. You might have told us. I don't think you actually got into this, but how did you get together with DJ? Because he's such a beast on this album. I mean, like, did you know him from back in the day, or what happened there?
DJ the drummer.
Yeah.
He was in Morbid Saint for the last like five or so years that Jay had it going, until they all split in like I said, around 19, and it kind of just needed to take a break, some of them guys. And that was one of the things when Jay and I had discussed, me coming back and Pat and everything, I said, I go, I'm up for it. I'll do it, but we got to be able to get him back. You got to get him, back in the band.
I could see why. Yeah.
He's a machine,
Yeah.
and that's always been a thing for us. Fortunately, we've always had, I mean, for me, it's only basically two, but Lee Reynolds on our first drummer, him too at the time, he was just incredible. He was only 14 when we got him in the band, and he was that good. It was just like, this guy's crazy.
And playing that style of music way back then. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. Oh yeah. He was, so that to me, that's always been a big thing. You have to have a really, really good drummer with this kind of music. I mean, and with DJ, his speed and everything really, it did influence a lot of the way the songs came out, as far as, when we were structuring them and even writing the guitar parts. When you've got a drummer that can play that fast, it actually makes it pretty easy.
I was really excited too. As soon as I saw the album, the first thing I was like, Pat's back. Pat's back.
Yeah.
So it's kind of always been my favorite vocalist. So I guess it wasn't hard to coax him back into the fold.
No, he was ready to go. And he was pretty excited that I was back in the band. And once he found out Bob, we've all known Bob forever. And DJ, it for me, it's the best lineup we've had.
Agreed.
And for me, I mean, it's just, we all get along so good. Way back in the 89, 88, 87 with the original Morbid Saint, we got along good, but we were young, so some people had attitudes.
Yeah.
We're old now. Now I don't have time to have an attitude. So we all get along so good now, and it's great.
So we had a lot of favorite tracks in this album. So I was curious about Burn Pit. I was reading it was inspired by the Stephen Avery case. What were your I'm taking you saw Making a Murderer. What were your takeaways from that whole mess? Guilty, innocent, maybe some of both.
Well, we actually, I mean, we're about 35 minutes from the Avery salvage yard. It's so weird because when it happened, I remember being on the news and stuff, but it really wasn't that big, of in Sheboygan here. I mean, you kind of heard about it, but it was, it just seemed weird at the time that it was like, all you really kind of heard was, this guy got out of jail. Next thing you know, they find this, he killed some other woman on his property, and they found all, on all the stuff. That's what you heard. When I seen Making a Murderer, for me, I to this day, I still don't think he did it. That's me. I just, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense why people are, well, it doesn't have to, he's crazy. And I'm like, why do you think he's crazy? Because the first time he was in jail, they proved he was wrongly convicted. They framed him. So, without getting onto making a murder.
No, I know, but you're right. Then the first thing you do when you get out is murder somebody else. You're right. That was the same thing I was thinking.
Yeah, I'd be really surprised if they actually, something came up someday and they actually found definitive proof that he did do it. I would be shocked. I would be shocked.
I felt the same way. I followed his attorney on Twitter. I kept waiting for the day it was going to happen, but it just never did. I was like, really?
Yep, I did the exact same thing. My wife she was just like, you're looking at, because I'd look at, like, there's Reddit groups and all this stuff for that, and I'm just, like you said, Kathleen Zellner comes on there and you're like, oh, now stuff's going to happen. And I still hasn't happened, I guess. I kind of fell away from it just because. But yeah, the song is, I actually wrote the lyrics for that song, and it's loosely based on that. Not completely, because the song actually is about somebody who is killing people. So it fit, the Burn Pit. I always, even back when, I wasn't in a band, and that always was in the back of my head. It's like, that would make a good song, something to write about. And we did it. and we used it, and I love that song. I mean, I love every song in the album, but I really like that song.
One more thing on Make of Murder. I got so into it that I started following a podcast called Wrongful Convictions. And I had to stop listening to it because it was so depressing. It was just like every week it was someone like him that these prosecutors, if they admit that they were wrong in 1983, that's like a black mark on their record. So they won't allow DNA or whatever. So it was just so depressing. I was like, oh, I can't take this anymore. And it was by this guy that was the guy that did it was like this big record company guy, and he had a lot of money. And what he was doing for philanthropy was him and this other guy would help out these people that were wrongfully convicted and couldn't get any help, But the stories were just rip your heart out. I couldn't take it.
Where they have to scrape together their money for their DNA testing and do bake sales.
Yeah, and it just made you lose all faith in our justice system. It was just like, well, we did, why did we need to look at any other suspects? We had Bill, it was just, it was always like that. And then Bill's like, but I was in Alaska that week, just didn't make any sense. Meanwhile, Bill's been in jail for now the last 22 years.
Oh, and those police are so picky.
It was horrible.
I was going back in the day. I was going through this horrible divorce with my ex-husband, and somebody came and smashed my back patio table. It took a big crap on my deck. I wanted them to DNA test that, and they laughed at me. They're like,
yeah, she was watching a little too much Law and Order.
Not gonna do that. No.
Yeah. You thought you had him. I know. Yeah.
You probably would have.
That's so funny. Oh.
Right. Another favorite track, Swallowed by Hell. I love it. It's super apocalyptic. It kind of made me feel like Walking Dead or The Last of Us. Was it inspired by any movie or actual events? And I like how it kind of ends on a positive note. The strong will not fail.
I wrote most of the lyrics for Swallowed by Hell. That's that song too. The song is literally about everything that's been going on in the world for the last few years. I kind of say that there's a lot of evils in the world, especially in the last few years. Just the shit that's been going on is just amazing. And hence swallowed by hell. It's very easy to be consumed by all these evils, and you can interpret that how you want. I kind of prefer people interpret things the way they want, because nowadays, I mean, we just put an album out and I could say the wrong thing and we get canceled, which I think is
no, I know what you mean.
It's just stupid, but realistically, it's actually about a lot of stuff that's been going on in the world. I mean, there's fires burning everywhere, chaos all around. I mean, that's all, with all the riot stuff, and it's really, that's what that song is about. It's if you listen to it and read the words, it's about what's been going on in the world for the last few years, just phrased different.
Yes.
I guess.
It's impossible for me to think of your hometown getting invaded, it's just what?
Yeah,
But it happens.
Yeah.
How about, I want to ask you about Pine Tuxedo. That sounds like something like Joe Pesci would have said in Goodfellas or something. Let's get him a Pine Tuxedo. Is that a phrase somewhere, or is that just something you came up with?
Pine Tuxedo, Pat wrote the lyrics for that one.
Okay.
I kind of always have a little bit of part in the lyrics. I may have to change things just to make them work with the way the song, the structure is going. So I always kind of have tweaks in there, but he came with Pine Tuxedo, and he made us all think that this is like a thing. He's like, "You guys never heard of a Pine Tuxedo?" And we're all like, "No."
Yeah, I think it might be a phrase somewhere. Yeah.
No idea what you're talking about, Pat. He's like, "Oh, you guys are crazy." I can't. Well, I looked it up, and I came back to the next practice. I'm like, "You're full of shit." I go, I looked up on the internet. I can't. It's nothing online about it. He's like, "No, I just made it up." I'm like, but yeah, so Pat came up with the Pine Tuxedo, and it was kind of weird at first. It's like, but it kind of grew on us, and I love that song too. I love playing it.
It's great.
I love the beginning. I love playing the solo at the beginning. Yeah, that song turned out really good, I think.
I like songs that have guitar solos in the beginning.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah.
So do I.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have an idea. If you shoot a video for it, I think it should be like an old Western with the pine boxes lined up. You
Yeah.
guys
Yeah.
can have a little shootout.
Yeah.
That's kind of on lines of what we've actually discussed, kind of. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
You want to do this?
Oh, okay.
All
We're
right. So
oh, go ahead.
we play a game on the show.
Oh boy.
It's called Blaspheming Monikers. Okay. And the idea of the game is I have 5 band names in front of me. 4 I got off of Metal Archives. 1 is made up. So I want you to try to guess which one is fake. One of these is not a real band. And we'll just keep guessing until either you get it right or we run out of bands. So, okay. All right, here we go. Number 1, Serpent Column. Number 2, Booze Serpent. Number 3, Serpent Coven. Number 4, Grave Serpent. And number 5, Civil Serpent.
So 4 of them are real.
4 of them are real, legit. Yeah, 1 of them's fake.
I'm gonna start with 3 is fake.
No, Serpent Coven is witchy doom metal from Brazil. They only have 2 EPs, but they're real.
Wow.
So that leaves Serpent Column, Booze Serpent, Grave Serpent, and Civil Serpent.
Booze serpent.
Which one?
Booze.
They're real. They're from Turkey. Black and death metal. They have 1 full length and 2 EPs.
They use the shot method too while they're recording. No, I made that up.
Wow, apparently. All right, what's left?
Serpent Column, Grave Serpent, and Civil Serpent.
Brave.
Yep, that's it. You got it. There you go. Yeah.
That's pretty
I think
bad.
Civil Serpent. I can't believe somebody
The worst
called their
name.
band that. They're from South Dakota.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Anyway, yeah.
That's,
So no, you did pretty good.
well, I got right
Yeah.
there.
Sometimes people get them right away. Other times I can have like 4 people on the call and no one's getting it. So, you never know.
So the other 4 bands, they're real, and then you just make another one up. That kind of
Yeah. 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 It's a very popular, because I mean, like I am fascinated by a couple things on Metal Archives, like 6 bands with the same name that are present. That makes no sense to me because it's so easy to verify. Now, why would you want to do that? And also bands that have these terrible names that took 5 minutes and they put their whole future on it. Just I don't get it.
We were in the High Roll Records PR guy Dustin. He been driving me nuts for the last couple of months. We just played a show in Houston, Hell's Heroes, and I got to meet him down there. And I told him that I'm like, man, the amount of interviews that he had me doing. I mean, I was doing like 7 interviews in like 3 days at one point.
Oh wow,
it's crazy. And I'm like, dude, I do work and stuff. I'm not just sitting around waiting to do interviews. And but he's a great guy. But he ended up getting it somewhere to this Zach. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Zach Moonshine.
I don't think so.
He's from down in I think that's the Tennessee, something I can't remember, down south somewhere. But he's got a radio show and they have a festival and stuff down there. But he has on their website for the radio, they have a contest for Band of the Month. Band of the Week, and then if you win Band of the Week, you can be Band of the Month, and then if you win that, you get like a bunch of PR stuff and winning.
Right.
Well, Dustin put us in that, so you can vote. You go on there and vote, and I looked at that, and we were like every week we were on there, we were up against like 20 bands, and some of these bands, the names, I'm like, this can't be real because I can't. There was one lesbian bed death.
Oh yeah, we actually just reviewed them on our rock and roll show.
Yeah.
They're very old school rock and roll. They really are.
They're an actual band.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
real.
we
All right.
actually just
All right.
we
Yeah.
reviewed them on our rock and roll show because this is the extreme show. We have the rock and roll
I have a
show.
feeling that we'll be interviewing them probably next month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
they've
thought-
got a great song.
But the phrase lesbian bed death is not actually sexy at all. It's about lesbians that have stopped sleeping together.
No,
if they're tired of each
lesbians,
other.
it's a theory that lesbians in a committed relationship have less sex
Right.
than any other like form male female combination that you can put
Yeah,
together.
so it's not as sexy as it sounds.
I'd be willing to disagree with that because I am married.
It's just that it was somebody's theory at some point. He heard it and it was like, okay.
What was the
Wow.
one that John from Blackberry laughed at?
REO
REO,
Wagon.
there's a band called REO Rape Wagon. I mean, come on. That was one that made my eyebrows go up. Like, who's thinking, wow, we're gonna get on FM radio with that moniker, Come on.
Holy shit. I'm still amazed that Lesbian Bed Death is an actual band.
They have like 8 records. They've been around for 9. They've been around forever, yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, you ought to check out some of their videos. It's full of a lot of like, they must have got a discount on like the fake blood because it's in everyone.
Yeah, true.
Well, we did compete against them in that, whatever, but
That's funny.
we won that, by the way. So
Oh, good.
So how was Hell's Heroes you were talking about? What were kind of your best and worst memories from doing that festival?
the worst, it was everything about it was really good. We didn't really, well, the flights were a little messed up for us. Sound was bad for us, but that's kind of a given with monitors. The monitors were just, it was I was kind of hoping it would, because the festival's run great. Christian Larson runs it, and everything about it is really, really good. I guess they had some problems with merch. They only had like 2 people selling band
good
merch for
lord.
like 18 bands or something.
Oh, wow.
So it
Okay,
was
yeah, I bet that was a
lines-
mess.
Yeah, the lines were long or something like
The whole
that.
separate mosh pit.
It was, yeah, it was out of hand, and it rained really bad Thursday. We played Friday, so it was pretty muddy. But it was really bad on Thursday, I guess. But yeah, it was pretty much just the mix was. I expected it to be better. We had a horrible monitor mix. Couldn't hear a damn thing. So it's really hard. It's hard for us to play at the speed we play at, and it's probably hard for anybody at any speed, but especially at this, the way we play, you have to hear everybody. I need to, I couldn't hear drums at all. Well,
Yeah, oh, that's
that's
bad.
kind of what you stay on with, So that was the worst part about it. Everything else was great. We got to meet a lot of people. It was nice because we played at like 2:00 in the afternoon on the outdoor big stage. So it was great to be able to get that done. We actually packed our stuff up. They drove us back to the hotel. We walked back, and then we got to spend the whole day there and watch all the other bands and drink and and talk to people and stuff. So it was kind of nice playing in it because we won't nowadays we won't drink before we play. So it's completely different than how it used to be.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
We used to want to drink. I still want to drink before I play, but I just know it's not. It doesn't work the way it used to.
Yeah.
Playing is like it ain't working.
Yeah.
So it worked out well, and like I said, we met a lot of great people. It was a great festival. We had a good time. I wish we could have stayed for. I really wish we would have played on Saturday because all the thrash bands were on Saturday. Sodom and Demolition Hammer, they were all on Saturday. We were like one of the only kind of thrash bands on Friday, which it is what it is. But I wish we would have been able, and we then Queensryche headlined Friday, so we got to see, even though it's not the original band, but they were really good, and it was a great time.
I saw some live video of it. You guys, I mean, obviously it wasn't the best audio, but you guys, the crowd reaction was good. It looked like you guys were really killing it.
It's perception is, yeah. I mean, I can't say it sounded bad to the crowd, but just for us, it was a struggle. When you struggle to play, you lose that. Like I had a really good time on stage. Everything sounded great, and everything was awesome. But when you're struggling, you have to pay attention so much that you kind of forget really, that you can't really look at the crowd and interact with them in any way because you're just so concentrated on trying to trying to stay together and that, so that you lose some enjoyment, I guess, when it's like, so for us, it's not as fun. Like when Morbid Saint first started, we were basically a cover band. So we
Okay,
played
right.
a ton of Slayer, Exodus, Megadeth, we played all that stuff back then.
Yeah.
So we played a lot of these songs, and I was standing there going, I can't tell what song they're even, what song is this? I could not, literally couldn't, it sounded so bad.
Yeah.
Really? But Overkill played before them and they sounded great.
The best thing about a Megadeth show is Dave calling people out. It's not as much about the music. It's him going, you with the laser pointer. This is what happens when cousins fuck.
Yeah.
That's the best part about a Megadeth show.
Yeah.
And when he was on Headbangers Ball and he would fuck with Ricky Rockman, I loved him. I was like total man crush for Dave Mustaine back then. He was the greatest. Like 94, 95. Oh, I loved it. Yeah.
So you guys are headed to Italy?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Okay.
We really want to do that show because one of my favorite bands is Overkill.
Okay.
I've just been a big Overkill fan.
Yeah.
And we would be playing like 2 bands before them. So I really want to do it. But logistically, I don't know if it's going to work. Right now we are on that show. But it has to, we have to be able, we've got to be able to get there. And with flights and the cost, we just found out going to Houston, just some of our oversized gear that we brought along was just crazy.
No, I believe it. Yeah, I know.
The stuff,
The cost is just ridiculous nowadays. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It's so I haven't talked with them yet. But I'm going to talk to the band on Thursday, and then we're going to make a decision. I really hope we are doing it, but we just got to figure out if we want to, we're not about making money, but we are definitely against.
Oh yeah, you don't want to lose a huge amount of money, and everybody's got day jobs. I'm sure that they have to.
It'd almost be worth it to try to book a couple more shows.
Well, and that's one of the problems with, people always ask us if we're going to tour and stuff. We're not a touring band. We can't physically. We just can't. We can't. It doesn't work because, like you said, we all have jobs.
Yeah.
We're not just. We don't just hang out and wait for shows. So, we, with some of the shows that are coming up, we're playing in the Czech Republic. That one's for sure. That one we got to take. We're losing how many days of vacation. Everybody loses days of vacation every time we do these shows. We're coming to New York later in the year. And PA, and I think we're coming by you guys on that same weekend.
Yeah.
Where are you coming to?
Did you say you're in Washington?
Well, we're in Baltimore, but Washington's close.
Baltimore. Okay, we're coming to Washington somewhere.
Okay.
Somewhere is we're playing Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Saturday's New York, Thursday's PA, and Friday is somewhere up around Washington, somewhere.
Okay.
But so we're losing, like I said, we only got so many days of vacation you can take, and
I know.
So
not everybody can afford to do the Anvil thing and go get paid in spaghetti dinner or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Well, they paid. Well, they fed us. I mean, hey, so what?
Right. Yeah. So we're logistically we're looking at if we can still, like I said, we told them we would do it, but there's no contracts or anything right now.
Right.
And it, we understand if we had the time and we could, like you said, if we could go there for a week or 2 and string some shows together, we would easily be able to do that because we keep getting offers for more shows like Barcelona, Barisalas, whatever. We've got some other offers to play over there, but we just can't. Overkill's going to be there. They're on a European tour or whatever, so for them it's fine, works great. But just to do one-offs like that, it's either it's going to cost them a lot. They got to really want us because it's going to cost them a lot. Or we got to be able to string shows together, and right now we just can't.
15 years.
Well, keep with the muscly covers, please. Please. Yes. We're big fans.
I guess we'll have to see how much more shit we get for this one.
Yeah. And also the first thing I thought when I saw was, I was like, it's the color scheme of Nuclear Assault Game Over. It's that orange and
Very
really
eye-catching.
pops off the racks, you know. Yeah.
Because Ed did a lot of Megadeth's early albums too. He did
Yeah.
some Megadeth, and it's almost that same kind
The
of.
peace cells, right.
And the Rust in Peace, I think, is kind of some of these. It's all these different colors that he likes to
Yeah.
use. So, but
Yeah, really cool.
I'm for me, he said Repka. What are you gonna?
Right.
I mean, we hired you. It's like we hired him for a reason. We didn't hire him for us to tell him what to do. We wanted what comes out of him.
What do they not like about the cover? I mean, it's a
It's
thrash metal album, and
perfect.
I don't know.
what are the complaints like?
They just say it's ridiculous. I don't know. I don't see it myself. I mean,
No, I don't either.
Look how popular Walking Dead is, and all they do is go around stabbing people in the head in that show. Come on.
which side is the other one? What's on that side?
Yeah, that's spectrum of death that you're pointing to now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Destruction and Swallow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't see it so good.
Yeah.
I like that better than that.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, yeah. Spectrum of Death always reminded me of what's that Italian band, the with the coffin picture? I forget that it's got an actual dead body in a coffin and it's shriveled up the skull like that. I can't think of the name of the band, but that's what it always reminded me of. So, but you never know. I guess that's cult. And speaking of this, I might as well. This is funny. You were talking about getting the name of the band wrong.
Oh.
We did a review of a band. All right, the name of the band, it's spelled VLTIMAS, right? So we were like, Litmas, okay. And we did this whole review, right? And then the PR guy comes back the next week and goes, it's actually Ultimus, ULTIMAS, but it's just a V in the front. And then I was like, oh well, I guess we look like idiots.
Well,
I get a phonetical.
Had to go all cult with the V.
I'm one of the people because I mean I like people always ask me too if I like death metal. I don't prefer death metal. There's some that I do like, and most of the death metal I do like is old, like actual death.
Right.
I think the old death to me is great. That's the definition of death metal. The stuff that is just so brutally low, I can't understand anything you're saying. And the one thing that really bothers me, and just me, I'm old, whatever. I cannot. I don't. It doesn't make any sense to me why people have logos that you can't read.
Oh,
it's like a thing in death metal to have the most messed up logo that you can't. I mean,
I'm gonna send you. I'll send you a link to one. There's this band. They're called like Keys to the Astral Gate or something. Their logo looks like someone drew a map of a city. It's ridiculous, and it's like huge. Yeah. So I'll send it to you. It's the most extreme. But I know what you're talking about. You're like, there's no way I can pronounce that. And,
I can't. I've got a buddy who's a big death metal freak, and Maryland Death Fest. I think it was a few years back. Blood Incantation played.
Oh yeah, that one's really hard to. It looks like scribble. Yeah.
He sent me a picture because he knows how much I like BC Rich Ironbird guitars, and they both play them. So he sends me a picture while he's there, and I'm like looking at it going. I text him back. I'm like, "What's the name of the band?" And they got a huge banner with their logo on it. I'm like, "What the?" And then he tells me, and I'm looking at the logo, going, "I can't." Even when I know it, I can't see it. It just I don't get that.
It's sort of like those. Remember those? They used to have those pictures where it looked like a bunch of dots, but if you looked at a certain way, you're like, "Oh, it's a ship," or "Oh, it's a clown," or it's sort of like that, right? I guess.
Right. But people
all
like
I see is a bunch of lines. Yeah.
I got a bunch of shirts from this company, and it just looks like it's a death metal logo, but it really isn't. It's just, and I'm always like, you don't know this band?
Yeah.
It's just this company.
We interviewed John from Incantation, and he did blaspheming monikers, and he was intrigued by the fact that I was making up band names. He said I should get patches made up of fake bands. He said that would be the ultimate hipster thing to do. Is to be like, what do you mean you never heard of them?
The idea with the shirt would be great because I would get my buddy big time if I had a shirt that was just not
right.
But it's a band. Oh, you never heard of them?
We never heard of Pilsner Wolf. Come on, come on. Yeah.
Yeah, we had this fake character on the show for a while who would call in, and his name was Stu Manchu, and his band was Stu Manchu and the Overalls. So my coworker had watched it, and he's the one who calls in, but we changed the voice. So I said, "Come on, Rachel, you know who Stu really is." And she's like, "Oh, I've heard of him." I just let her go.
Whatever.
I was like, "Sure,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
Stu Manchu in the overalls. They
Right.
do all Captain and Tennille covers. They're very popular."
Ugh, yeah.
Oh, that's
It's
awesome.
fun messing with the mainstream people. What can I say? So,
That's funny. We have that same little microphone guy in our practice area.
oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. His center of gravity's off. I had to tape him down.
Yeah, ours is like laying on the floor constantly because he can stand up.
Yeah, it's really top heavy.
Yeah, they didn't design. They should have made a stand or something for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another fine made Brazilian product, I guess. Whatever. Yeah. Well, this was great. It was a great chat. Thanks for doing it.
The sounds of decay!
Sounds of Decay 1, Cemetery Moon, Dark Kingdom Volume 2. When we first listened to these live demos that are technically proficient and yet have that unprocessed feel, we were trying to guess where this band was from. Brazil? Norway? Sweden? Nope. Try Connecticut. You know, the land of stunning fall foliage, quaint villages, lobsters, and Mark Twain, and now some resplendent black metal.
Prep school and insurance companies.
What started as a solo project of Apparition, Cemetery Moon has now grown to a complete four-piece beast. The band's style of black metal harkens to mine Merciful Fate, but with a lot of other vibes that blend in heavy metal and even some grunge overtones. After putting out a self-titled LP in 2023, they now offer up these 2 EPs recorded in 2 live sessions. Dark Kingdom Volume 2 has 3 new tracks and also 2 recordings from the previous LP, adding up to 5 tracks that erupt out of your speakers, most in the 3 to 4 minute range, with only one surpassing the 5-minute mark. The Wretched City starts out rather genre unconventional, with the drums of Usurper rolling and pounding out a straight out of a Neil Peart solo before that glorious melodic tremolo rises up, a vine climbing on the post. Ah, there it is, the music of my gothic metalhead people. Usurper sure does not skimp on the rim clangs and cymbals, adding them in as exclamation points throughout. He even throws in some rolls that border on a surf-infused beat. Apparition's vocals vary from a dry, husky rasp to a shriek settling out of a deep, malevolent growl during the verses. The guitar harmonies of Apparition and Langlegoth are dark and majestic, while Astaroth is all plucking an impressive melody all his own as his fingers give his 5-string a workout. There is a guitar sound here that would not sound out of place on a Metallica record.
Eyes of a False God has a slower, more plodding feel with a bass line that rumbles and smacks. The tremolo riffs are eerie and otherworldly. The impressive harmonies return in the bleak universal. The chanting, clean layered vocals are just slightly off key here, and they do sound a little rough, but this is a demo after all. I compared it to the LP version, and the vocals are better on that version, but in a trade-off, you can hear the individual instrumentation as well as on the live track. Life's Enduring Lie is another mid-pace track that throws in some clean singing layered at the start. Usurper cymbals clang like gongs. The Bleak Keep, by comparison, is a speed fest with drums that gallop like a runaway horse after discovering the open barn door. The guitar breakdown gives way to solo as Apparition and Langlegoth take turns in the spotlight, while hefty bass notes bump up and down. This track continues to accelerate, but holds the road as those drums that brought us in show us back out. We will keep a close watch on the career of these talented, corpse-painted, genre-pushing young men. I'm sure we'll find them in Connecticut Yankees ruling over a black metal court. Mark Twain would be proud. The song is The Bleak Keep. Sounds of Decay 2 is the new aborted Vault of Horrors. It seems like the fetus-related monikers always come through strong, you know? Dying Fetus's last album was a crusher. That early birth control stuff out of Germany is groovy as hell. And now we have Aborted to add to the list. It's been 3+ years since their last record, 2021's excellent Maniac Cult album. Vault of Horrors is the 12th album from the Belgian tech death quartet, and their sound has not changed much at all over the years. Screamier than Suffocation, more flowing guitars than Ulcerate. Each song on Vault features a different guest vocalist, and while I'm normally turned off by the special guest type project, I was pleasantly surprised by this one. The irony is, it's kind of hard to tell the difference between singers track to track, as all employ the signature aborted style of one screamer and one grunter. Personally, I was so taken with the storming riff frenzies and majestic guitar solos, it didn't seem to matter whether the song features Matt from Cryptopsy or Jason from Ingested.
Fans of the genre should know what to expect from Aborted. 10 songs, all between the 4 to 5 minute length, packed with Ken Bendine's tickling blast beats, stop on a dime, rip zigzags, hard-barked vocals, and the remarkably fluid leads and twin guitar melodies of Ian Jackellis and newcomer Daniel Corenson. They have even added in some spicy synths to the mix, courtesy of Canadian keyboardist Spencer Cregan. Don't worry, they don't go all Rammstein on our asses. Lots of standout tracks like the blast-heavy Hellbound, featuring Matt from Cryptopsy on vocals, a track that blasts into one of the disc's strongest riffs at its midpoint and offers a downright sultry lead melody a little further down the road. Condemned to Rot is another stunner, the strobe-like percussion adorned by the vocals of Francesco Pali of Italy's Flesh God Apocalypse. Finally, there's the cut we're going to play for you now, Notorium Demento, which translates loosely to Book of the Dead, with maybe the most intense metal chorus breakdown on the whole dang thing. This one is barked by David Simonich of Signs of the Swarm.
As you can see, there's a little something for everyone without compromising the band's trademark ear-splitting assault. Then there's that album cover. Wow, a giant skull made of hacked-up body parts? Gee, hon, I didn't get you anything. Well, I'm off to check out Coat Hanger Abortion. So let's play a song. This is Hellbound.
Sounds of Decay 3, Litos with Caesarana. Dramatic black metal from Brazil? Where else would you go to find such treasures? Litos, a word I am sure is derived from the Czech word litost, which Google says, a state of agony and torment created by the sudden sight of one's own misery. It would appear that the band is actually one man, one Malcolm Risto, who is credited for all the instrumentation and vocals on the album. The lyrics, which are primarily in English and are fantastically well written, are credited to one Wendell Cioda. Caesariana is a collection of 8 songs, mostly milling in the 5 to 7 minute range. I would describe the band's style as melodic, almost orchestral sounding, with majestic guitar and synth passages bolstered by pounding and aggressive drums from Risto, which at times remind me of the violence of Abath on the early Immortal records. The songs are constructed in a very orthodox black metal style, no female vocals or programmed drums. The production is crisp, and the mix is full of power, creating a mood of soaring emotion with grim overtones.
One need look no further than the opening single, Whipping Bottles, for a garden variety example of the band's near orchestral power and double bass drum workouts. Lyrically, the song is a fascinating Orwellian-style tale of grapes waiting to be made into wine, but forced into an oppressive sort of slave state. Fascinating approach, really. There is a theme to the record that seems to revolve around the idea of the guilt of a mother bringing a child into this dark world. Judging from the artwork and tracks like Caesarian, in which he asks the question, should every mother have given birth to humanity, or should we voluntarily extinguish ourselves? Not exactly the soundtrack for your next teen sock hop, but the performances are ferocious, and I will soon be checking out their back catalog as 2019's Cross Parallels of Self-Refraction look fascinating, with song titles like 400 to 790 terahertz, Landscapes, and Founding Wheels and Baby Hatches. I don't know what that's about. Anyway, this is the song I just talked about, Whipping Bottles. The joy of Catholic imagery.
The weirdness of Catholicism.
Yeah, I think we covered it all pretty much. Yeah.
They ought to write that book instead of The Joy of Sex. The weirdness of Catholicism.
Yeah.
Kind of dark and twisted somehow.
How do you feel about alcoholics? I like alcoholics. Awkward interview questions.
Yeah, I actually had a date one time, like a couple dates in, be like, how do you feel about pot?
This has been the Snaggletooth Decay Extreme Music Podcast. Special thanks to Jim from Morbid Saint for appearing on the show. Snaggletooth theme by Gustav Jord of De Flesh. Sounds of Decay theme by Steve Rathbone of Lair of the Minotaur. Season 3 artwork by KC Angel. Sounds of Decay Bands, check them out. Litos, Aborted, and Cemetery Moon. All content 2024, the Snaggletooth Decay Extreme Music Podcast.
After all that violence at church got me warmed up. Let's screen The Exorcism of Emily Rose and then play a round of exploding kittens.
This is the Snaggletooth Extreme Metal Podcast.